Hey everyone, today let's know about some of the strange theories and facts behind the famous book Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Let's start the video, but before that I request you to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that I can bring more exciting ones like this. Robert Louis Stevenson had long been fascinated with split personalities but couldn't figure out how to write about them. Then one night he had a dream about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Stevenson later elaborated on the dream in an essay called A Chapter on Dreams. For 2 days, I went about racking my brains for a plot of any sort, he wrote. And on the second night, I dreamed this scene at the window and a scene afterwards split in two in which Hyde, pursued for some crime, took the powder and underwent the change in the presence of his pursuers. All the rest was made awake and consciously. Many historians speculate that the duality of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was inspired by an 18th century Edinburgh cabinet maker named Deacon Brodie, a respectable town councillor and an extremely successful craftsman. Brodie's job gave him access to the keys of the rich and famous, which he made copies of in order to rob them at night. After a string of heists, he was eventually caught and hanged. Brodie's story fascinated the people of Edinburgh, including Stevenson. Even though the thief died more than 60 years before Stevenson was born, the future writer grew up with a Brodie cabinet in his room, and in 1880 he co-wrote a play called Deacon Brodie or The Double Life. But the cabinet and the man who built it may have influenced Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde too. In 1887, Stevenson told an interviewer that the dream that inspired his story involved a man being pressed into a cabinet when he swallowed a drug and changed into another being. Stevenson was sick with tuberculosis when he wrote the famous tale. He had recently suffered a lung hemorrhage and was under doctor's orders to rest and avoid excitement. Still, that didn't stop him from cranking out the first draft of the 30,000-word novella in somewhere between 3 and 6 days flat, and then a second, rewritten draft in another meager 3 days. In the book, Dr. Jekyll takes a drug from a chemist that turns him into another person. He likes it until he loses control of the drug. Stevenson may have been drawing from personal experience. It's been reported that he was prescribed medicinal cocaine to treat his hemorrhage, which was discovered in 1880s that cocaine tightens blood vessels, and that the inspired dream for the story occurred during a cocaine-fueled slumber. Stevenson later professed an affection for the drug, and his wild writing stint is consistent with someone on cocaine. According to one version of events, after reading the manuscript for Jekyll and Hyde, Fanny, his wife, criticized its failure to successfully execute the story's moral allegory. Fanny later recounted that she then found her husband sitting in bed with a thermometer in his mouth. He pointed to a pile of ashes in the fireplace, revealing he had burned the draft. There are actually several theories as to how the first draft went up in flames. In 2000, a letter found in an attic revealed more of Fanny's thoughts on the book and a mysterious role in the manuscript's burning. The artifact contradicts Fanny's previous recounting as well as the one her son told of Stevenson burning the manuscript after he and Fanny got in a fight. In any case, Stevenson spent 6 weeks revisiting the book before it was ready for publication. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sold 40,000 copies in 6 months, and soon there were more than 250,000 pirated copies in North America. People seized on the moral message of the story. They wrote about it in religious newspapers and preachers gave sermons about it in churches. Within a year, there was a play based on the book, and soon there were productions in Scotland and the United States. It was Stevenson's most successful novel. The most common interpretation of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is that Mr. Hyde's corruption comes from sexual activity in the form of assault, promiscuity, or homosexuality. In a private letter to the New York Sun, Stevenson wrote that Mr. Hyde was not a mere voluptuary. Hyde was a hypocrite, the essence of cruelty and malice and selfishness and cowardice. In 1888, a stage play of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde opened, starring Richard Mansfield as Jekyll and Hyde. The audience raved about Mansfield's performance, finding it thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. Then, 2 days after the play opened, Jack the Ripper began his infamous killing spree in London. It wasn't long before people started connecting him to the stage adaptation, with some suggesting that the serial killer's mind was poisoned by the play. Still, others thought that Mansfield himself was a killer, and letters in the newspaper suggested that Mansfield was too good at playing a killer not to be Jack the Ripper. By 1931, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde had already been adapted for film 24 times, including a 1920 film starring John Barrymore. But the 1931 version impressed critics with its transformation scene, in which the actor Frederick March, who later won an Academy Award for his performance, turns into Hyde. The secret of how director Ruben Mamoulian shot the scene wasn't revealed until the 1970s. It was done with colored makeup and matching colored filters, which were removed or added to the scene to change March's appearance. Since the film was in black and white, the color changes didn't show. There are few books that have seeped more deeply into popular culture than Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Beyond movies, there have been cartoon adaptations with Mighty Mouse and Bugs Bunny. Stan Lee once said that, along with Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde helped to inspire the Incredible Hulk. There's musicals in 1990s of Jekyll and Hyde and a 1988 Nintendo game. Comedies and parodies abound, including Stan Laurent's silent but amusing spoof of Dr. Pickle and Mr. Pride, which holds up pretty well. Well, that's it for today. I hope you're liking Nerdies Discoveries. Can't wait for the next video to learn more and be fascinated about. See you on the next. Bye.